Hey guys, welcome back to Around the Campfire with AmeriCamp. Today I am here with Kendel, one of our amazing influencers, and we're just going to have a little bit of a chat about her AmeriCamp experience. So just to start off with, do you want to introduce yourself and talk about what camp that you went to?
Yeah, absolutely. So, hi, like you said, I'm Kendel. I am an ambassador for AmeriCamp, and I went to Frost Valley YMCA camp in the Catskill Mountains in New York.
Amazing. What role did you do?
So I was actually hired as a theatre counsellor. So it was my first summer and I got an activity position, which is what I really wanted, so that's good.
Oh, I love that. How was your summer sort of overall? What was your favourite part?
So this is going to sound like I hate the kids, which I don't. I loved the kids when they got there. But my actual favourite part of camp was the staff orientation week. That was just the most fun week. Like, even though you were learning loads of stuff to do with camp and you were getting all the serious bits sorted, just hanging out with all the other counsellors and getting to know them and like making the friends before the kids get there, that was probably like the best part. It was just so fun, and you got a lot more chill time during that week, so you just kind of got to know the camp and the people, and yeah, I think that was like my favourite part. But I love the kids. I do love the kids.
I think orientation's like the time where everyone sort of bonds and gets to know each other.
Yeah.
And you figure out where you fit in, who you fit in with the best,
100%.
and things like that. So it's definitely a special experience, 100%. Going into it, the whole experience, did you have sort of any expectations of camp? Like, did it live up to it? Did it not? Like, what did you think about it before going into it?
So it definitely exceeded my expectations. I think like a lot of people, I had very much Camp Rock kind of in my mind, just because I think that's what everyone has in their mind when they think about summer camp. So I kind of had that to think about, and then like I was expecting it to be fun. I was expecting it to be just like absolutely chaotic. But the one thing I wasn't expecting is actually how hard it is, like how hard of a job it is. I don't think a lot of people talk about it enough. Like, don't get me wrong, it's an amazing summer and you have the best time, but can be really difficult sometimes, especially the early starts, and then you go into bed super late because obviously the kids get to bed and then you want to like see the other counsellors and you want to have fun.
It is hard, and when we've talked about this, like, it is hard, but it is also the most rewarding job you'll ever do. Like, you've just got to push
100%.
through all those tired days and you'll realise, like, oh, that was the best thing I've ever done.
A lot of the advice I give to people when they speak to me, like on my TikTok or they ask me questions, is I always say, like, try and get your own downtime, like, in there. I think that really helps at camp. I didn't probably do enough of it because I just wanted to, when I was free, I just wanted to, go see the counsellors and socialise and make the most of the summer, which you should go and do that 100%. But at the same time, I wish I'd just kind of just sat in my bunk for a few hours and just like chilled out and kind of like re-energized myself. You just want to like soak it all in and do everything, so I probably exert myself way too much more.
So just to sort of go back even further, how was your sort of getting hired at camp experience? Like, how was that whole process for you?
So I think I applied like quite early on in the September time, and then I was just kind of filling in my application, things like that. And then I went to the first camp fair, which was the November one. And that was a shock for me because I was so set on being hired at the camp fair. I was like, I'm going to get hired. I was like, Mum, this is where I'm going to be hired at camp. And I got there and I spoke to quite a lot of camps, and I had like 3 camps set in my mind. Didn't end up going to any of those camps, but I was like so set on those camps. I interviewed with them, and then like I didn't get offered a place. So I was really like, I'd bigged myself up too much, and I'd gone in there like I'm definitely getting hired, and then I didn't. So I was kind of like, oh, this sucks. But then I spoke to someone at AmeriCamp on the day, and I was like, oh, I'm kind of disappointed I didn't get hired. And they were like they gave me the best advice and said, like, there's like 20-30 camps here, like there is hundreds out there. Like, just because you're not been hired by one of these camps doesn't mean you won't get hired. So I was just like, yeah, you're right. Like, kind of went away, and then literally it was probably a couple of days after Frost Valley sent me an email and had like reached out to me, and I was just like, oh, buzzing. When I got hired by Frost Valley, I was just like, okay, I can relax not a bit more now and breathe. That was my experience really. And then I think it was within 2 weeks I'd been offered the interview, and then I got the place, and then yeah, it was like a 2-week kind of timeline.
At the end of the day, everything happens for a reason, and there must have been a reason why you didn't get hired at the camp fair, and Frost Valley was waiting for you, and it's the perfect camp for you.
Yeah, definitely. It was the best camp as well. Like, I'm so glad I went to that camp. I had the best time. So I think, even though I didn't get the 3 camps I researched into. It sounds silly when you think I've looked at 3 camps when there's so many camps out there.
So yeah, just to sort of talk about your camp a little bit more, do you have sort of a favourite camp tradition that happened whilst you were over there?
Definitely, and I think I've spoke about this on one of the camp lives that we did maybe a few weeks ago because someone asked, and I'm sticking with it. It was the best tradition, and basically, like when you start a session with the kids, you'd have like an opening campfire, and our camp had like a jar full of campfire ashes, and they would basically sprinkle like a scoop of those ashes onto the campfire to start the session. And then at the end of the session, we'd have a closing campfire, and then they would scoop some of the ash out of that campfire and put it in the jar. And they'd been doing that since like 1950 or whenever the camp started. So this jar was just filled with ash from probably hundreds of campfires, and I just thought that was so cool. Like all the ash was different colours, and it's kind of like you felt like you were a part of something massive because you'd been there and you'd seen that happen, and like you were part of that campfire, but also you've joined a group like of thousands of other kids and counsellors from generations and decades of people going to that camp doing the same thing. So that was by far probably the best tradition like ever.
Oh, that's so lovely. I think things like that make you realise how long camp has been going on for and how many things have been happening, and like that's so nice that you are a part of that tradition. Like you were there for that whole experience, and that's really special. You know, you can say that to someone who goes to that camp in 20 years and be like, oh, I was there.
100%.
Yeah. Oh, that's
100%.
So
like, you know, they just carry on doing it. Even if you never went back to that camp ever again, like you're kind of a part of that jar. Like the ashes that are in there is part of the like your kind of community and stuff. It's just like so cool. I just loved it.
That's so lovely. Did you travel after camp anywhere?
So I am a massive Disney fan, so my plan was always to go to Disney World. Like there was nowhere else I was going to be going after camp. Like that is the place to be for me. So I travelled a little, I did New York City for a few days after with some people I met from camp, and then after that flew down to Florida and did Disney World, like because it was just my dream at the time. I just could not go, and when I tell you I spent all of my camp money in the gift shops, I'm not exaggerating. So yeah, that's basically all I did. I think if I was to do it again now, I would probably take the opportunity to travel more, but at the time I think I was just so fixated on it, because obviously plans start to develop at camp with your new friends about where you want to go after, and I kind of felt a bit like left out and a bit like, oh, I'm gonna miss out on like traveling with my new friends because I'm so set on going to Disney World. So now I'd probably not make as many plans and just see where the summer takes me.
That's what I did. I sort of went into it with, I know that I'm coming home on this specific date, but I don't know what I'm doing in between that. And it wasn't until, you know, I got into camp, I got into finding my group and who I want to spend time with. And then, you know, the last few weeks of camp, then you start planning on what you want to do.
Then you start, 100%.
So I've done that sort of both years, and it's been great because you hear that certain people are going to be somewhere in the country, other people are going to be somewhere else, and then you can just float around and meet with them and things like that. And I think that's just really nice because you get to hang out with loads of different people on a more personal basis outside of camp as well. So I definitely think that is something that we try and push, is like be open with where you want to travel and who you want to travel with and things like that, because you never know. Like you really never know who you're going to be friends with, and you might be friends with someone and then not want to leave them. Like,
yeah,
you know
it's so
what I mean?
true. It is so true.
Sort of, what would you say to anyone who's looking at doing AmeriCamp, you know, this summer or next year, like someone who might be a little bit nervous about the whole experience?
My biggest advice for AmeriCamp is, I think the biggest thing that scares people is doing it alone, doing it solo. And I always try to tell people, like, you're not by yourself in that. Like, pretty much probably 80-90% of people that apply for AmeriCamp, they're all doing it by themselves. They're all going on their own. So even though you feel like you are alone, you're really not, because everyone's in the exact same position as you. So I always try to get people to think about that in terms of, like, even when you go to the camp fairs and stuff, you're going to make friends there. And when you have like your AmeriCamp orientation, you know, before you all fly out, that's a really good opportunity to see like if there's anyone else there going to your camp, and it can kind of put you a bit more at ease of kind of going by yourself. But I'd say probably even if you're kind of preparing to go to camp, I'd say start doing stuff on your own. like at home, and that can prepare you a little bit, like go to the cinema by yourself or kind of go out for a meal by yourself and just see how you are in those environments, because I think that'll help you a lot when you like do AmeriCamp, something like this, when you are going to be kind of on your own until you get to camp, and then it's absolute chaos. So I always tell people kind of enjoy the alone time before you kind of get to camp. Like, people are always scared about flying to camp, like taking a flight by themselves, but I always try to say to them, you know, try and make the most of that, try and make the most of the downtime on the plane and kind of being with yourself, because once you get to camp, that's going to be really rare. So I always try and like ease people's minds a bit more that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, the amount of people that are traveling and going to camp with someone that they know already is very, very low. There's really not many people that are doing it.
Yeah.
Most people are doing it solo, and you know, some of the people are just turned 18, 19, like they are young, and it is a big thing traveling by yourself, but also traveling to the States by yourself and being there for like 3 months is huge, like absolutely.
Yeah.
But you've really just got to push yourself out of your comfort zone, and I think
100%.
it will be the best thing for anyone who's nervous about doing it, is to just go and do it, and you'll completely change as a person. Your confidence will go up.
You do.
Yeah, you'll feel so much more secure in yourself, and you know, you'll finish those 3 months and you'll be like, well, what am I doing now? I can do anything. I can go move to Australia. I can go and keep traveling by myself, because it really forces you out of your comfort zone as well, which I think is a special experience, definitely.
Like, I was quite a bubbly person before doing camp anyway, but even when I did camp and experienced being in a new country by myself, like, it was the first time I'd done something like that. And even though I'd kind of half prepared myself for it, you can never fully prepare yourself for something like that. I don't think anything can prepare you fully for something like that. It just, because everyone's experiences are so different. And even when I came back, my own mum said, you know, you seem really different, and kind of got a new sense of like self when you got back. So I was like, oh, that's good. And I've been able to solo travel since then in other countries, and I don't think I would have been able to do that if I didn't do AmeriCamp first, which is good. So yeah, I'd take that from
absolutely. I think it, you know, no one's come back from it really being like, oh well, it made me a shyer person, or it made me more like reclusive or anything like that. Like, it's just not that situation at all. So it's definitely a big first step to take, but once you take it, it's genuinely the best thing you'll ever do. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
Is there anything else you want to talk about? Any advice you have? You know, feel free to promote your TikTok page and anything like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd just say, like, my TikTok is Travels with Ken is my TikTok page, and I always try and answer all the out-of-the-box questions that people have. All I would say is no amount of TikToks and no amount of all of our influencer advice will fully prepare you for camp. I think, you know, it's a good step. It's a good way to kind of get a gauge of what it's going to be like, but camp experience is just so unique to you as an individual person, and how your camp experience will go is dependent on you, on yourself. Like, it's not kind of dependent on anybody else. Kind of how much you do at camp, the fun you're going to have, and all the experiences and stuff, that's going to be very unique to yourself. So, like, it's kind of like parenthood. No one can prepare you for that because it's unique to yourself. So I would just say keep very open-minded if you go into camp.
It's great that you are there to answer people's sort of quote-unquote weird questions, because people have these questions and they're like, I don't know who to go to with things like this. Like, they don't want to reach out to AmeriCamp as a company. So it's great that you're sort of answering these questions for everyone. Like, what you're doing is fantastic. So thank you.
Yeah, it's good. Like, there's so many questions. I know, like, the other influencers will say the same. We get so many questions, and like, we're always happy to answer them, like, no matter what. Because obviously we've been there and experienced it.
I'm really looking forward to seeing everyone that's going out this summer, just seeing what their experience is going to be like, and like what they didn't expect to see and where they travel after and things like that. It's like, it's really nice to see, and people that are messaging now worried about things, you know, you can click on their profile in, you know, a few months time, and it's just like they're just living it up, like in Miami, or they're
living the dream.
And it's just like, it's such a nice change that you know, this company can provide. It's a really special experience. Absolutely.
I think it's nice to see online as well, people going to camps that are not as well known and not as spoken about, because, you know, there's those 3 or 4 camps everyone's heard of, and everybody wants to go to. And like my camp that I went to wasn't one of the well-known camps, but it was still an unreal camp. And I think a lot of these camps, like, they need that extra little bit of exposure for people to see, like, it's not just the 4 camps that are unreal, like there's hundreds that are just so good. So I think that's where TikTok is really helpful in it's kind of showcasing off these other camps that people might not necessarily have heard of or thought of applying to. So
I think some people going to the experience with, you know, they are set on going to these big camps, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it's the right camp for you either. Like, there's so many different types of camps, and you might think you want to go to these big camps, but it might not be, you know, the right fit. So I think definitely just keeping your options open and talking to all these different camps, whether they be religious camps or underprivileged camps or anything like that. Like, just keep your options open, because
100%.
you might not think it's the right camp for you. Then you have a conversation and you're like, I actually love this person and I love this camp and this is like perfect for me.
They've got a way of like selling you a camp as well. Like Frost Valley were proper, like, I had obviously a face-to-face conversation with one of the directors, and it just sounded so good when they speak about it, because they're so passionate about it. Obviously it's their livelihood, like they do this year in, year out, so like their passion just like wins you over in a way.
100%. That's definitely a fantastic piece of advice, is to just like keep your options open and just like see what happens. Well, thank you so much guys for listening, and see you later.
Thanks everyone, bye.